Hello, welcome back. And so, in this video, what we're going to really talk about is sort of the first assignment that's due. The first assignment is due on January 28th, okay, and it's going to be a PowerPoint presentation. Now, I don't know how a lot of the other classes work. I will tell you, I've taught compensation, I've taught the education and training, I've taught culture, and then I've also taught the Human Resources 300 class. This is the only class where as I recall, I don't recall the assignments that we did in the education training. To be honest, I was kind of filling in for that one. But this is the class where we say, hey, we're going to do 2 PowerPoint presentations. We're going to do a paper with a timetable that goes with it. And I think this is really cool. First of all, as a professor, these are a lot easier to grade. I'll be honest on that front. It's pretty cool. Second of all, it's a lot easier for the students themselves because a lot of the students say, hey, I don't have to, form a coherent sentence. I can do bullet points. Could you imagine if I said, hey, I need a 20-page paper on topic X, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to give you the bullet points of everything that's supposed to be in this paper. Yeah, try that one. See how the professor feels about that. I don't do that in my class on number 3, though. Just don't. It won't work out well for you. However, looking at the PowerPoint presentations, one of the things that I really want to kind of talk about is sort of the development of the PowerPoint. Again, and I'm going to kind of look at the, I just want to pull up the assignment itself. And so what the assignment itself basically says, I'm sorry, I'm viewing this as a professor, so I have to go ahead and view this as a student. Okay, so it's going to say in the assignment, you'll design and share a PowerPoint presentation that describes an organization, its currents, its challenges, futures, its capabilities, its requisite competencies needed for its success. Okay, stop there. So, I've seen tons of these assignments. And I will tell you that the ones that are usually the most successful usually take this here that it says describe an organization, its current and future challenges, its capabilities, and its requisite competencies. Guess what, folks? That's your outline. Okay? Don't make this harder than it has to be. Don't get creative. Just do what the assignment says. I've had some people who thought that they could blow my socks off. They get uber creative, they don't answer the question, and then guess what ends up happening? I have to send them an email saying, we need you to redo this. And I don't want to have any of those this class. Okay, that's part of the reason why I'm going to tell you, the PowerPoints and the papers have really motivated me to do these videos, because my hope is that by having these conversations, you're going to actually look at them, learn from them, and then hopefully you're going to be able to build really good assignments. Okay. So that should be sort of your focus, your thing there. So you will look for and report on examples of existing total rewards programs, including monetary, non-monetary, and the work environment. So those are probably 3 different slides that need to be a part of this whole presentation, right? The MS PowerPoint presentation will include a report on existing metrics, organizational or HR, if any present, and citations or website materials are used. In-text citations, source presentations on references using APA format are expected. Now, your last slide in that presentation should be your works cited. Okay, I've had some times where people, they do this stuff, they don't even bother to do that, they just do in-text citations and they think that they're done. That's not it. We need the in-text cite, we need the works cited page, at the end. I know it seems kind of quirky because you're probably not going to do that, but I would actually suggest, if you're going to do a lot of this stuff, for organizations, you probably want an in-text citation. You probably want a works cited citation, and you don't have to do APA format if you're doing it for your company. Obviously, they're not going to grade you on it. But I would recommend it, because here's the thing: if you're, this PowerPoint presentation, you may sit down, and then 3 years later, somebody's building a PowerPoint presentation on something similar to it. They're like, where do they get this information? Then you have the websites, and you have everything like kind of laid out in one slide. They're just like, oh, thank you for whoever put this together. And plus, we all have a hard time remembering what we did a week ago, let alone 3 years ago. Okay, so this kind of helps you out if you do that. The in-text citations, I will tell you, as a doctoral student, we do in-text citations a lot. So do not come up with this idea that the in-text citations is only a school thing. I actually use them a lot when I'm doing presentations on tax reform. In fact, I'm building one on the tax reform legislation that just passed last Christmas. It's a 19 slide that I do for my realtor clients, just to try to get them to their stuff. So, going on with the assignment, it says this information can be used in the final paper assessment. Okay, so once you choose a company, that company is going to be the same company you're going to use for the rest of the class. Okay, so if you really are just trying to kind of dart around and oh, I'll probably choose this company this time, I'll choose this company. No, don't do that. It's not going to work out. You really want to choose one company. Now, while I'm kind of on the topic, that one company should be a company that you know. Okay, look, and I kind of said this in the first PowerPoint presentation, or not I'm sorry, the first video for this week. Don't choose Google. I get about 1/3 of the class to 1/4 of the class will choose Google. I have learned more about Google than I ever wanted to know. Not that I think Google's a bad organization, but it's not an organization that's typical. Okay, they're doing some really innovative stuff with that, and I guess some people can make the argument, well, shouldn't we be learning innovative ideas? That's well and good, but one of the things that you probably want to do is you want this report to make it sound like you know what you're talking about, and unless you've worked at Google, you probably don't. Okay, when it comes to about Google. And if I've hurt your feelings on that, I apologize. But look, I just don't think it's a good idea. It seems like a lot of the people who put the Google stuff together, the knowledge is variety. Yeah, unless you're talking to somebody who actually works in Google, it's hard to get that factual knowledge unless you spend an exorbitant amount of time learning about the organization. Very good example: if you serve in the military, you understand the military pay and benefit system. Why would you go out and learn for 3 to 4 hours, wasting your time trying to learn about a new organization, saying, well, I wanted the whole world to understand something else? Okay, you're not trying to go out there to learn a new organization. You're trying to learn about different concepts that exist within the world around you. And that's sort of the purpose of a lot of this online learning anyway. So go ahead and do that. That would probably be my biggest recommendation there. Okay, it's expected that at least 3 references will be used, with at least one of these 3 being scholarly in nature. All right, 3, not 1, not 2. You can use 4, 3. All right, I only bring this up because I can't tell you how many times we have these presentations come back. I either have 0, I have 1, or I have 2. And some people just think that's enough. Okay, now here's the other thing. Scholarly. What does scholarly mean? It means go on to the library website and go research something that is, scholarly by thought is a peer-reviewed article. Okay, now look, I understand you're bachelor's degree students, and so you're not PhD students like where I'm getting my doctorate degree. So, obviously scholarly is a pretty relatively easy thing. We read all scholarly journals all the time. But, here's the thing for this. The American Management Association, I'm trying to think of some of the, I'm just mind blanking out on these. Gosh, now I'm really blanking on them. So you really want to go to the library and download some and do the research. And so what you do is you type library. I'm pulling up the library here. You're going to see subject databases, or the databases that are. All right, so sorry, I was actually touching the wrong one. So you've got research databases. This is one search. You can go on there and you can choose. I just chose like compensation theory. Okay, and it comes up with all these different ones. Now, generally speaking, you can do, if you do that, you can do this thing called academic journal. So if you do the one source search and you hit this academic journals button, it's going to search. It's going to shorten things down. Now, academic journals are generally going to be peer reviewed. Now, I will be honest. Just like all automobiles are different, peer reviewed journals are very different. There's some peer reviewed journals I wouldn't line the bottom of a bird cage with. And then there's also some peer reviewed journals that I, phenomenally recommend constantly. There's, like I said, management science is one. Um, let's see, I'm trying to see, some of these are, a lot of the, Journal of Corporate and Accounting and Finance is actually one that I've done. Um, and I'm just kind of thinking, so I'm adding human resources to kind of get some things that are a little bit more relevant. Journal of Occupational and Organizational Psychology, I've actually used them several times for some stuff. Journal on Management, I've never actually heard of them. Human Resource Review, I've actually used them a couple times on some projects. Um, you know, and I'm just kind of throwing some things out there. You should be going out and getting some of these really good journals out there. All right, now why is peer reviewed important? Well, let me tell you. Peer reviewed essentially means that I as a scholar can write something, and then in order for it to get published, I have to send it into the organization. The organization is going to send it to a peer review council, so to speak, for lack of a better term. The peer review council is going to read my submission, and they're going to say, yeah, this is scholarly. And in our opinion, we think this is very scholarly. We think it adds to the literature and allows us to attain a greater understanding. His writing skills are very good. His subject material is deep enough and reflects the nature of the journal. Now, that's the other thing, is that a lot of these journals are going to be different. The Academy of Management Review Journal is generally more theoretical than, say, for example, it's the Academy of Management, the journal, just the purple one. I know most of you guys are going to read this online, so you don't actually see the copies. But they actually tend to be, the review is very theoretical, and so it's a pretty good journal. Those are pretty good journals to be able to use. I'm trying to think. Some of the ones that they have here, I mean, they're and the greatest thing, you guys, and I'm sorry, forgive me for getting all old fuddy-duddy on you, but you have no idea how good you have it. All right, I could be at home, and pretty much every single thing that I would want to research is online. All right, I still remember when I was, getting my bachelor's degree. I did mine in Asian studies, so I had to write articles using scholarly journals. And I remember having to go and looking at microfiche, to find the journal that I was looking for, because the journal wasn't in existence anymore. They put it on microfiche, so I'd have to go and you get there and you search, and you have to use the old card catalog to figure out where it is, and say, okay, do I have this one? Oh, I don't have this one. Okay, well, I got to drive all the way over to this other library because they've actually got the and luckily we had enough universities in the area that some universities carried one group of journals and the other carried another group of journals. You had to drive which library had it. Oh my gosh, it was so painful. Nowadays, the best part is that a lot of these universities, they group together, and as a result of which, if one university doesn't have something, sometimes you can go to the other university and you can get access and get it without too much of a problem. So make sure you're using scholarly journals for at least one. I don't think that's guys, that's not really a huge requirement. I mean, I remember when I used to write papers, that were like 20, 30 pages, we're required to use at least, 10 to 15 scholarly sources. And I actually found out it wasn't that difficult. Actually, it was much easier to find those ones than it is sometimes some of the less, first of all, I have very little faith in the media nowadays. And a lot of times when you're, especially, business media, there's so many times that I'm reading things and I'm like, that is not the way things are. So, you want to be able to go to people that are the scholarly review and make sure that a lot of that's being done. So let's take a look at this again. So you want to, you're going to create a PowerPoint. You're going to describe the organization, current and future challenges, capabilities, and the requisite competencies needed for success. But then you're also going to talk about, the examples of the existing total rewards program. To talk about monetary, non-monetary, and work environment, including the values and culture. Make sure you talk about the values and culture. It's very important because values and culture is going to reflect in their compensation strategy. That's why Google does what Google does, because it's also part of the culture. And then you also need to make sure that you're doing in-text citations and then also a works cited page. Now I'm going to give you a little hint on something. Please don't be that person who builds a PowerPoint by taking what would normally go into a paper, copying and pasting into a PowerPoint. I mean, I know a lot of people in the class are in the military. I know there's a lot of people in the class who are not in the military, but this concept everybody's going to get. How many of you have heard of death by PowerPoint? All right. Death by PowerPoint is when you are looking at something and you always see it. And I remember, you'd attend somebody's PowerPoint. They just flash up the screen, and it's just nothing but words. And what are you doing the whole time there? I'm not paying attention one iota to the speaker. I'm reading everything that's on the screen because I want to make sure that I get everything. All right? And one of two things happens. Either A, I'm paying attention to the screen, not attention to her or him. Or B, what ends up happening is the person starts reading to me what's on the screen. And now I'm falling asleep. Because at that point, it's too much. Now, sometimes we have to. A very good example when I do, legal citations because of, a tax position that we're going to take on something. Obviously, the law has to be written as the law is, and sometimes that means that you have to do a death by PowerPoint moment, but it's not something you should be doing constantly. So somebody comes to me and they say, well Professor, I want to explain something to you. It doesn't necessarily go on the PowerPoint side, so how am I going to do that? And here's what I would normally do, and I'm going to try to do this. I'm probably going to get some flicker rate issues, but this is sort of the, a PowerPoint slide that I'm working on. Well, yeah, and that's going to kind of hit here. So let me see if I can back this up a little bit. All right, so this is sort of the PowerPoint. I know it's going to be a little hard to read. But you've got over here, you've got this is the actual slide that I was working on, the tax reform legislation, the title slide. These are all my screen slides. It's basically the miniaturized version of all the slides that are coming up. Now there's a little bar down here called click to add notes. What I want you to do is if you have something that doesn't go on the screen or on the PowerPoint slide, but you want me to know about, put it in the notes. If you put it in the notes, it actually works out. And here's the other thing about it. If you want to do a citation on something, but you don't think it really belongs in the slide, you can put it in the notes. The notes is the greatest place to put stuff. And I actually read those. In fact, if I'm looking at something and I'm like, this PowerPoint slide doesn't seem like it has a whole lot to it, I'll usually find out where the notes selection is, scroll it up. Usually that's where I find everything. It's a phenomenal way to do it. It'll help you immensely in doing this in this assignment. So I'm right at about 20 minutes, so I want to go ahead and I'm going to shut off now. If you have any questions, send me an email, and I'll be happy to help out. Thanks.